Welcome, lords and ladies, to the Pair of Black Antlers Fight Night. Thank you for watching. This is session 12 of Hoard of the Dragon Queen with my party. I am Haven the Hare. We're about to go into our 12th session. This is about the only time I want to tell you there's no spoilers for the actual campaign setting. This is a completely left-fielded run mini game that happened within our campaign. So this is completely off book. And if you want to know more about that and how we ended up here and exactly what happened, feel free to watch my How Haven Did It videos, which is the DM screen, or behind the DM screen, of the sessions. Right now I'm just going to stick to the story. So, as the story goes, the party had just met up at the Pair of Black Antlers, and we had met up with we'd met up with Leotian, and they had talked a bit, and they'd showed off a little bit. The main discussion of the main plot had been held off until they could talk more privately in a more private setting. Right now, it was just getting to know each other, and so there was some showing off last session. And at this point, we are leading into the fight night that they were told about. That was here at the Pair of Black Antlers. This ended up getting a rousing appreciation from the party, to the point where the monk Lutao signed up for it right away, and then the rogue Tabaxi Fire then signed up as well, and so did Callie the Bard. Okay, they signed up with the rest of the members who had signed up for it, and after searching around a little bit, because they realized that they had lost their Cobalt Eddy, so Remy and Fire proceeded to search around the tavern, the multiple levels of the tavern. Hearing that he might have been seen by the kitchens, they went and investigated and didn't find him. So unfortunately, Eddie's MIA, and nobody seems to know. But unfortunately, they ran out of time, and the fight night was about to start, and Fire had signed up, so they made their way back into the main arena that was constructed off the side of the tavern. Multiple levels, octagon-shaped. There's 4 pillars in the center. It's about 60 feet across in the center of this fight pit, with balconies going all the way around, 3 levels going up, and it more or less was like in the basement is where the actual pit was, and it was just solid dirt with these 4 large pillars making a corner and an octagon, again, 60 feet across. As they enter and file their way in, there's lots of people there. They're shown to a little section off to the side where contestants enter. The rest of the party is spread out a little bit close to that and around the rails to watch the fight. And a little halfling jumps up and starts shouting and introduces himself as Remmer. Remmer is the proprietor of the Pair of Black Antlers, and he is so happy that you are here to our fight night. And a special fight night it is, because he's managed to convince some of the local wizards as well as some of the local clerics to come on down and help him out with this little shindig so he can up the stakes. Yes, we are no longer doing just a martial tournament where it's just hand-on-hand combat. Using these expertise, he has raised some force walls around the arena to protect the audience and has extra clerics on hand so that things can get a little extra dirty. Party wasn't planning on that. So, they're told that all things are open now. Magic can be used. Weapons can be used. It's a free-for-all, one-on-one tournament. The announcer, Remmer, now introduces the first 2 contestants. And he looks at his paper, and Fire, or Tabaxi Rogue, is the first up. And so she is escorted down and into the pit. And then, the next is Uluwin. Uluwin steps out and walks into the arena. And it's a very large, female, human, very drab-looking, a little bit of wear and tear, a lot of wear and tear to their garb, carrying a staff. And she walks out and faces off at about 20 feet across from the dead center of the arena from Fire. 60-foot octagon. There are 4 pillars 25 feet apart in the 4 corners in the center of this. Roof goes up as far as you can. The pillars are 12 feet tall. Give you an idea of exactly what this fight pit looks like. The fight starts. And you'd think the Tabaxi would have gotten initiative, but Uluwin ends up moving faster, and she casts entanglement around the Tabaxi, and the Tabaxi fights and struggles against it, but the vines are too strong and wrap around her, and she is restrained. Uluwin, very impressed with herself, turns to the crowd and asks if they are enthralled, and for for the fact that this is one of the first times they've seen a magic attack actually happen inside of the fight list. They are. And Uluwin, taking this newfound pride, turns and drops the spell of Entangle and casts darkness, and a 15-foot sphere of darkness envelops around the Tabaxi. Tabaxi, now free of the vines, races forward towards where she thought that Uluwin was. Coming out of the sphere of darkness, she realizes, though, that Uluwin has actually stepped off to the side a little bit. She changes her direction, runs straight for her, and at about 10 feet from her, disappears, just to reappear behind her, with her rapier already pulled back, and stabs into the back of Uluwin. Uluwin whips around at this point, jumps back just a little bit, and casts Thunderclap. Poof! And the thunder wave of energy hits the Tabaxi, knocking her back a little bit, and she takes a little bit of damage from it. Tabaxi, not really quite too phased by this thunderclap, stabs again with her rapier, catching her on the other side and causing another gash wound across the midwind section. This, of course, makes the human that had been standing before her start to shimmer a little bit, and she grows, and her true form is revealed to be an 8-foot gray furball with floppy ears and a pink kind of bull nose holding her spear. Tabaxi Fire is expecting a magic attack and has kind of prepared herself for it, so she's not ready when this now huge furball stabs forward with her spear and catches her unaware across the side. Pulling back her spear, the fire now runs backwards away from her, pulls back her bow, fires an arrow, which unfortunately drops to the ground and completely misses. Grabbing her rapier once more, but this time, the furbolt has actually made its way into. Uluwin is now hiding inside of the sphere of darkness. Tabaxi, not knowing what to do, takes the best she can and runs into the sphere of darkness, whipping her sword back and forth. Manages to actually find where Uluwin was hiding and catch her across the side a little bit, but doesn't stop and continues to run out of the sphere of darkness and behind the pole on the other side. Uluwin then casts a spray of acid out, but misses. Fire now runs back through the sphere once more, whipping her sword again back and forth, and this time manages to catch her again, doing a little bit more damage to this large furbolt as she runs past, and again exits out the backside of the sphere and hides behind the pillar. Uluwin, dropping the sphere of darkness, follows the direction that she felt the whoosh of air go by and sounds of her feet of the Tabaxi running past her towards one of the pillars, rounds towards the pillar and casts Thunder Wave. The ground erupts, thunderous wave of energy pushes the Tabaxi back into the pillar, knocking dust and dirt off of the pillar, pushing all of the rough dirt and sand and dust away from them for about 10 feet as chunks of the pillar fall on and hit the Tabaxi just a little bit. She's not able to dodge most of it. It takes like a point or two of damage from these falling rocks from this, now kind of damaged pillar. The Tabaxi stabs once more, misses at Uluwin. Uluwin now pulls back and casts acid arrow directly into the face of the Tabaxi. And unfortunately, the Tabaxi drops. Clerics immediately rush the field, heal the Tabaxi. The Furbold Uluwin stands before the crowd who is cheering. They shake hands like amiable foes and exit. Now wizards are descend upon to clean up the mess that has been of the ground broken up by vines and thunder waves, repair the pillars a little bit to make sure they're sound, and reset. The next two combatants called to the fight pit are Lutao, our very own monk, and a gold dragonborn fighter in chainmail holding a sword and shield, or longsword and shield. She jumps from the VIP area of the arena and enters the fight pit itself. They stand off at about 10 feet, and the fight begins. Lutao cartwheels and leaps backwards, drawing his bow and fires the arrow, catching the dragonborn fighter a little unaware across the top of the shoulder, doing just a little bit of damage to the chainmail into the upper shoulder region. The dragonborn charges forward to his just within range and breathes fire upon the battleground. Lutao was ready and backflipped a little bit out of the way and was able to actually avoid the entire fire breath. Lutao, now seeing the dragonborn running towards one of the pillars, runs for the same pillar, comes around and catches the dragonborn across the midsection with a water whip. Dragonborn, being strong enough, isn't knocked prone, but takes a good amount of damage from the water rip as it rips across the chain and chest air region of the Dragonborn. Dragonborn reaches forward and smashes down with a longsword. The longsword grazes across Lutau, but Lutau takes the momentum given to him by this attack, spins around with his quarterstaff, and manages, with a fury of blows, to catch across the Dragonborn, and the fight is over. Lutau has proven how strong monks are, and drops one of the champions of this fight pit. However, this was one of the first times that weapons had been allowed. The crowd is nonetheless impressed, and the clerics again descend upon the fight pit and heal the Dragonborn. Hands are shaken. He raises Lutau's arm, acknowledging the fact that he's been beaten, although maybe a little bit grudgingly. Lutau and the Dragonborn leave the fight list. The next two called up are our own... Oh, and I forgot to mention, actually, that Arkin had also signed up. So the cleric is joined into this fray. So the last two combatants are Arkin and Callie of our own party facing off against each other. Our bard and our cleric enter the fight pit. As they both enter the fight pit and stand off at the 10 feet apart in the center, Arkin gets the upper hand. Knowing that she's fighting off against a bard, she casts silence around the bard. The bard, then reacting to the fact that now she can't do anything, runs forward at a slight angle off, and soon she exits the silent sphere. She then casts Blade Ward upon herself, and these mystical blades start floating around her to block anything that comes in. Seeing that the Blade Ward has been cast, Arkin shoots a guiding bolt, and unfortunately misses. Seeing that the guiding bolt had missed, bolsters her confidence, and she casts Sonic Whispers into Arkin's head. Arkin manages to fight off the effects of the whispers and takes no damage. Watching the blades fall, she then casts Thunder Wave on Callie. The ground erupts around Callie. Callie manages to fight off most of the effects of it. Takes a little bit of damage and stays standing as the ground erupts around her for a good 15 to 20 feet around her. Standing back, she plays her flute and then proceeds to tell her a funny joke, which unfortunately I never wrote down, but casts hideous laughter. It works, and Arkin now drops to a knee, engulfing in the laughter. Now, being Arkin's turn, though, she manages to regain her composure and only lasts for a short time, but is still mystified the fact that she found that funny. Standing up, fighting off the laughter, Arkin charges towards Callie. Seeing the Arkin cleric charging at her, Callie then casts Cloud of Daggers at the moving form. Arkin manages to run through it, taking some damage from the little daggers fighting at her, and circles around to behind Callie as she does. She then casts Blindness on the bard. Fighting off the effects of the blindness, Callie then casts invisibility on herself and starts to run around and away from Arkin. Arkin, not seeing where she's gone and not being able to pick it up with all the sound and everything to pay attention, proceeds to then cast Thunder Wave again on herself. So the wave of energy shoots out around her and knocking the invisible Callie prone. She actually catches the sight of the body hitting the dust and the amount of dust that flies up from it as she knocks Callie prone slightly off to behind her. Being knocked prone, Callie then drops the invisibility and casts Fly and flies up and backwards a little bit onto one of the pillars that was slightly off to the side from where they were to sit upon the top of the pillar. Arkin, seeing her fly up and on top of the pillar, casts Radiant Soul, or not casts, but releases her Radiant Soul, and these gossamer wings float from her back, and she glows, and she flies up to meet Callie. As she gets to the top of the pillar, Callie then casts Sleep, and it works. And the sleeping Arkin then falls the 12 feet down. Unfortunately, taking the damage when she hits the ground is enough to wake Arkin. Still in her angelic form, she races back up and flies back up to catch her, landing on either side of her, and swings her sword down at Callie. Callie then manages to pull out of the way most of it, but takes a little bit of damage to the shoulder. So Callie, now seeing this sword-swinging angel on top of her, casts Vicious Mockery and says something about Sparta. confused a little bit, but it doesn't really affect her too much. And Arkin is able to actually grab onto the prone Callie and fling her off of the pillar. Callie desperately tries to grab onto the edge of the pillar and misses and falls the 12 feet. And that is just enough damage to make her fall unconscious. The clerics again drop down, healing all the characters. It's a wonderful bout. They actually both Callie and Arkin are given a round of applause, not only from the audience as well as their fellow players, as it was a wonderful combat between our cleric and our bard. At this point, the fight list is called. It has gone on far into the night, and they've decided that this new way of doing things has caused them to have to rethink the rules, and we're going to have to consult things, and the fight pit is closed. The wizards go back to work trying to fix things as best they can from the multiple thunder waves that were cast in this pit. And that is where we actually called it for the night, partially because two of those fights ran a lot longer than I thought they would. And if you want to hear about my thoughts on exactly how this all went down, again, go watch my How Haven Did It video, and I'll explain exactly what happened and how a party can derail a DM. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Haven the Hare, and if you'd like to help me support this page where I will never monetize it because I hate commercials, feel free to catch out the dice pouches I make down on my Etsy store down in the links below, as well as the card game that I made called 5 Minute Sword Fight. And I will leave you with these final thoughts, though. As you notice, though, we never found Eddie. So what's Eddie been doing during this entire fight pit, and why can't anybody find him? Also, was the fight pit enough to impress the Harpers and the Gauntlet? And are the party impressed with them? Those answers will hopefully be found out in our next installment when we have session 12 of my party going through Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Thank you so much for watching, and may you make all of life's saving throws. The bard is what really took us offside. Fuck it, I'm changing my way of doing things. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Reset.